We're gonna go into the top 4 exercises that you can use to get as explosive as possible for your upper body while throwing the shot put. And we're gonna start right now. Okay, so every shot putter has this dream. You watch the videos of Chuck Adequachi benching 550 for reps. Peyton Otterdahl, same thing, hammering that 550-pound bench. Christian Cantwell back in the day, 600. So we know that we've got to have a really strong upper body to throw really far with the shot. And if we look at the shot for what it is, it's a 7-foot circle. You got 2 to 3 seconds to accelerate a 16-pound or a 5K or a 6K implement as quickly as possible. The name of the game is acceleration. Whoever can accelerate the fastest and apply that directly into the shot will throw the furthest. That's simple. That's what we're trying to do here. And so that means, yes, you've got to have leg strength. Yes, you've got to have good rotational strength. You've got to have good technique, but you also have to have a really powerful, strong upper body that explodes on the finish so that you can hit the shit out of it, right? And so that takes us into those 4 best exercises for upper body strength. Now, one little story I wanted to share with everybody. I've seen videos of Darlin Romani benching, I think, 600 pounds. Joe Rumer is closer to 7 with his bench press. And you get around guys like Joe and guys like Darlin Romani, especially Darlin's traps. It looks like his traps come up to the top of his head. He's so big. Going into these exercises, we've got to realize there is some vanity. Like some shot putters be like, oh, I don't train like a bodybuilder. You don't train like a bodybuilder, but you still like to be big. There is some vanity behind that. So some of these movements are going to actually contribute to that viewpoint that the outside world has of us as shot putters. And so that first key exercise that we're going to talk about is going to be a push press, okay? Now, I like using push presses behind the neck typically because it's a little bit easier on the shoulders. It's a little bit easier of stability. You can feel good hip drive. And I really, really like to use push presses as an upper body movement because there's a little bit of connection between the hips and between that leg drive, and you learn how to sort of apply that through your trunk into your hands. I would recommend doing behind the neck push presses if you have jerk boxes that you can drop the weight onto. If you don't have jerk boxes, you're going to have a slower eccentric to lower that back to your shoulders, and that will stimulate some serious growth inside of your triceps. So I recommend, if you've got jerk boxes, 4 or 5 sets of 3 to 5 reps. If you're going to use this to potentiate your nervous system for a big time bench press, maybe you're going to do 5 triples or 5 doubles at a lower intensity, but it's still a great upper body exercise that teaches you how to transfer into that finish. And if you can think about that lockout on the top of the push press, that will transfer into that big time finish at the end of an actual throw. So use push presses once or twice a week. Push the weight if you feel good. Make sure you've got jerk boxes. If you don't, have that really slow eccentric, and that's going to build some really good tricep strength. So our number 2 exercise for building upper body strength for the shot put is going to be the explosive med ball bench. So the explosive med ball bench is a phenomenal movement that you can use closer to peaking. So think about when we finish the throw, there's a lot of pecs. Okay, there's a lot of your shoulder, there's deltoid, there's a lot of your tricep, there's a lot of even your forearm as you finish with that big flick. So we've got to be explosive as possible. So if we're in the fall or even in the early part of the season, maybe we don't use that explosive med ball bench because we're not really starting to peak. But as we start to peak, you can start to play around with different loads, and you can go, you can use a 30-pound med ball or drop down to a 15-pound med ball, and you can see which one transfers really well into the circle. And so the reason why I love this movement is you have force absorption when you catch. You've got to coordinate quickly, and then you have this stretch shortening cycle where you drive it back up, and then someone just guides it, drops it and guides it back in. It's almost like a depth drop or a plyometric for your upper body. But that acceleration is taking, it's a little bit slower than what you'll see inside of the circle, but it's sort of the link between that big time bench press and the speed in the circle. So it's really going to do a good job of bridging that gap. And I would recommend doing this twice a week, 4 sets of 5, 4 sets of 7, something like that. And that's going to take us into our next big exercise that's going to help you as a shot putter with your upper body. And this is going to be a miracle grow. Okay, so a miracle grow is a movement that's going to help you open up your lats. It's going to help you open up your triceps, open up your shoulders, increase your mobility, mobility, and you will get more sore in your tricep than ever before. I promise you, I guarantee you, you will never be this sore in your tricep unless you've done the Miracle Grow before. Okay, the big key here is that I recommend, it's not a pullover. A lot of people, oh, it's only a dumbbell pullover. It is not a dumbbell pullover. You will take the dumbbell back and then you flex. So you want to see nice, steep flexion in your elbow and big stretch all throughout your armpits, so your lats and your abs will even get nice and lengthened. We want this deep position overhead, okay, and that's gonna help open up your shoulders for a better clean rack. It's gonna help open up your shoulders to be more stable overhead, because it is an overhead position. It's gonna blow up your triceps, which will help transfer to that finish. It's gonna help with the lockout on the bench press. And so use the Miracle Grow as a means of, one, strengthening your triceps, but also increasing your mobility. And that's another key factor here that we've got to talk about, is that when we're talking about shot putters, a lot of us are, internally rotated, just big, huge bench pressers. We've got to make sure we are doing some pulling movements. We're doing external rotations for shoulder health. Do some neutral grip pull-ups. These are all great exercises to make sure that you are still training your lats and your upper back, so that that foundation gets developed and is used when you're hitting these big time lifts. I recommend Miracle Grow once a week, 5 sets of 7. Go 3 sets of 7, 1 set of 12 to 15. I'm promising you, you will never be this sore. Make sure that you're getting that big time stretch, you're flexing in the elbows and getting those shoulders back nice and deep. And then that's gonna be a great accessory for the best exercise that you can use out of all the movements for your upper body, and that's a pad bench press, okay? And the reason why I love the pad bench and why I love how it transfers over to the shot put is there's a huge overload as you go on through the eccentric, okay? So you could use 120% of your max. But then as you get that pad, you hit that pad, you're able to get, 1, a bounce, 2, there's gonna be this massive stretch shortening cycle. So because you're overloaded, your nervous system's firing. We gotta recruit, we gotta recruit, we gotta recruit. So all of the high threshold motor units are being recruited, and then as you get down to the bottom, you can speed up the eccentric. That leads to this lighting up of your entire nervous system through your GTO, through your muscle spindles, which then elicits a huge response into that lockout. So you get a little bit of a explosiveness off the pad, and it gets right around that sticking point, and that's where you can accelerate through. It can get you to overload the lift, but also if you're peaking and you need to be a little bit more fresh, you could go down to 150 kilos if you're a world-class thrower and just, feel like a total machine. You go boom, 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 with 350 pounds, moving that at 2 meters per second, which is phenomenal. And that's why the pad bench is such a great exercise. It's good at overloading the triceps. It's good at improving the lockout position in the bench press, which will lead to that big monster finish. So again, make sure you're doing all your back work. Make sure that you're balancing out your shoulders, and so that you can make sure that you're recovering well. But ultimately, use these 4 exercises: behind the neck push press with jerk boxes, explosive med ball bench, learn how to do the Miracle Grow properly, and then finally execute the pad bench twice a week. You could go 1 day earlier in the week, a little bit heavier, 1 day later in the week, a little bit lighter. Smash those weights, and that's going to lead to those monster throws in the shot circle. If you need help with your programming, you need help with your strength training, head over to throwsuniversity.com and pick up a throws-based training program today. Until next time, guys, drop some bombs. Peace.